In the summer of 2016, my parents and my aunt came to visit me in Japan. Alex and I had been living there a little shy of a year. Oh, and Stryker. Who could forget the Tinks? During their 3-week trip, we saw and did many wonderful things, but for this video, we will be focusing on our several-day trip to Nagoya, Kyoto, Nara, Kobe, Naruto, and Hiroshima. Look, I'm not a filmmaker, but for some reason that summer, along with taking photos, I would pick up my camera, point it at something that I thought looked cool or interesting, and hit record for like 1 to 2 seconds. Then I'd think to myself, yep, Dan, we got it. Only when I got the footage back, it was out of focus buildings, out of focus birds, out of focus trees, out of focus people. So, last week, a full 6 years later, I thought to myself, hey, we could turn this into a video. So, here we go. Mom and Dad, I love you, and Japan would not have been the same without you. While my role on this trip was that of a Google Mapper, broken Google Translator, and family corraller onto trains and automobiles, my mother was very much the shot caller. And my mom wanted to go to Nagoya. Now, Nagoya is hardly a small city. It's roughly the size of Chicago with about 2.2 million residents. For reference, Tokyo is the most populous in Japan with almost 9 million. But prior to living in Japan, Nagoya just wasn't on my radar. But for my mom, her passion for going there superseded all other major Japanese cities. Now, what could be the big draw for the little lady, Could it be TripAdvisor's top attraction in Nagoya, the Toyota Commemorative Museum of Industry and Technology? Or perhaps she wanted to visit the over 400-year-old Nagoya Castle. No. She wanted to see Shabani. In 1996, Shabani was born to Kibabu and Muila in the Netherlands. At the time of our trip, he resided at the Higashiyama Zoo and Botanical Gardens. He was, by most accounts, including my mother's, the most handsome gorilla. I'm serious, they were comparing him to George Clooney. After checking out the super hunky gorilla, we made a quick round of the zoo, and despite not capturing any footage of Shabani, I did manage to get some of the tanukis, the much cuter and more Japanese raccoon. Later that evening, we checked out Oasis 21, which offered a fun water deck, a grassy courtyard for sitting, and a view of the Nagoya TV tower. We then ventured over to the Brooklyn Cafe, whose name I solely remember because I filmed it. After a long day of zooming around, we kicked back in the cozy environment with some dinner and a round of beers, which everyone really enjoyed. After ditching our luggage at the hotel, we kept it moving and headed to Arashiyama. Sitting on the western edge of Kyoto, it embodies a bit of the old Japanese charm and offers visitors rural views. You might even be familiar with the ever-popular bamboo forest, which was on our list, but first we had to check out Iwatayama Monkey Park. So far, it had been a very primate-themed vacation for my family. Before we could see the monkeys, we had to earn the right by completing a hike up a mountain. It wasn't particularly long, but it was pretty steep at times. Luckily, the trail was surrounded by a thick jade forest that protected us from the midday sun, and even our ears were treated to the lush sounds of the local fauna. As we neared the top, we read over the park rules. That absolutely no one broke at all while we were there, and definitely not us. Let me tell you, there is nothing as simultaneously cool and unsettling as mingling mere feet away from semi-wild macaques. I'm not quite sure what the visitor injury rate is, and I will refrain from Googling it to keep my experience of going there pure. For the most part, everyone was respectful of giving the animals space, while also trying to capture the perfect selfies for the internet. And the monkeys? Well, They're there for the food and the swimming. Post monkeys, we ended our day with a jaunt to one of Japan's famous bamboo forests. And much like any highly touted tourist destination, it was packed. We did manage a few sneaky peopleless shots around the corners though, so kudos to us. After a train ride back into the heart of the city, we stumbled upon one of the many Japanese summer festivals, which is just a fun experience that I don't think everyone considers whenever they visit Japan, and I was glad that we managed to be at the right place at the right time. Our second day in Kyoto, we braved what I would argue is the most popular attraction there, the Fushimi Inari Shrine and the thousands of vermilion torii gates that surround it. The entrance is usually densely crammed with people visiting, but as you venture further and further down the hiking trails, you find more and more space and less people. The history of the shrine can be traced all the way back to the 8th century, and walking around just provides an endless sea of interest for your eyes. A few hours later, we boarded another train and headed to another famous landmark in Kyoto, Kinkakuji, the Golden Temple. Despite the heavy foot traffic, it is one of my favorite temples in Japan. Covered in gold leaf, the temple sits supremely, surrounded by a placid lake and manicured garden, all with the rolling hills as its backdrop. We hit the train again to the neighboring city of Nara and swapped out the primates of our trip for deer. Nara Park is home to about 1,500 shika deer, and visitors can purchase shika senbei, deer crackers, to feed them. From our experience, the deer were very docile, although in an effort to get a good photo, my mom did accidentally sit on one and it did purposefully nip at her. In the park, there was also a shrine, and prior to entering shrines, one is supposed to purify the body at a water basin. Whenever I took someone to a shrine for the first time, I would teach them the cleansing ritual seen here. Please note that I am not using the water to rinse my mouth, nor am I drinking it. I've seen way too many people go elbow deep into the basins. As the sun started to dip, we waved goodbye to the shika deer and the city of Nara. We were making our way city to city at breakneck speed. After checking out of our hotel in Kyoto, we took a train to Kobe, checked into our new hotel, and then started on toward the nearby city of Maiko to hop onto another bus to go to another city to check off another item on my mom's Japan bucket list. You see, our ultimate destination was Naruto Park, unrelated to the anime. With time to kill before the next bus arrived, we wandered around a seaside park. It wasn't too much later when my mother noticed that people seemed to be going up into the large bridge that crossed over Osaka Bay, and our curiosity piqued. Turns out the Maiko Marine Promenade was a portion underneath the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge that had a viewing area / walkway. Once inside, we were greeted by glass bottom floors that extended out over the water. It was a very visceral experience with the rumbling of cars above and the air rushing through the grates of the tunnel. I don't think any of us had been inside a bridge with a viewing glass bottom before, and it was definitely a highlight. But man, little did we know what Naruto had in store for us. With our tickets in hand, we caught our ride and headed out on the highway. Interestingly, there was a bus interchange midway through on the highway bridge, which doesn't seem too crazy, but when you think about it, how many bus stops have you seen on the 408? 2 hours later, we made it to our destination, the Naruto Strait Whirlpools. And it was time, yet again, to enter another glass-bottom bridge, but instead of basic waves beneath our feet, this time we were welcomed by the sounds of rushing water as it funneled through the small area of the Naruto Strait, causing massive natural whirlpools. Despite the challenging and quick currents, you would still see boats maneuver through the strait, albeit unusually. Upon exiting the bridge, we decided to do a bit more exploring around the shore, and while the views were beautiful, this little detour of ours led us to missing the last bus back. Hi, it's me again. So unfortunately, I don't have any footage of what happened after we missed our bus, but basically it was almost 7 p.m. and we were on a completely separate island from our hotel, and the only way we could get back was by a very, very expensive cab ride. And to make matters worse, we hadn't eaten any lunch. So next on our agenda was just finding a place to eat. After sitting down at a small town restaurant, we quickly forgot that we were even stranded, and instead we spent our evening laughing over our shared histories, bonding over our current inconvenience, and just sharing our excitement about the adventures yet to come. We checked out of our hotel the following morning and stashed our luggage at the train station before doing a bit of sightseeing in Kobe. On the agenda, the Kobe Nunobiki Herb Gardens and Ropeway. The gardens are located on Mount Roko, and taking the ropeway up is a wonderful way to get a view of the city. Beautiful gardens aside, it was no surprise that there was also a trail that led to the Nunobiki Falls. One of the beautiful things about Japan are the random pockets of nature sprinkled into the compactness of the cities. It's not hard to find a park or a nature trail to escape into for a reprieve from the hustle and bustle. And with this piece of Kobe tucked under our belt, we made our way to our final destination on this bullet train excursion. We arrived in Hiroshima around 5 p.m. and managed to knock out all of our sightseeing by 8:30 p.m. Thinking about it now, I question our sanity and the state of our feet at the time. Starting off, we walked through the city to Hiroshima Castle. The original castle, constructed in the 1500s, had been demolished during the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, but an exact replica was built a little over a decade later. After snapping a few more pictures, we went to the Hiroshima World Peace Memorial. My parents had been to Hiroshima on their first visit, and this was an experience more for my aunt. It's a somber one, certainly, but it feels necessary when visiting Japan. With our bodies sore and minds tired from the long days of the trip, we took one last look out of our hotel in Hiroshima. At the train station, we waited on the platform for the bullet train that would take us straight to Tokyo. And I more than likely fell asleep once our tickets were checked. So, is that it? Well, it certainly wasn't the end or the beginning of their 3-week-long stay in Japan. Did we do fun stuff in Harajuku? It's possible. Did we visit Japan's old capital, Kamakura, on the day that Pokemon Go was released? Yes, and I felt like a kid again. Did we hike Mount Fuji? Yes. Did I get this cool stick? Also yes. Did I capture any footage of it? No, because why would I do that? While I don't have any film footage of hiking Mount Fuji, I do happen to have photos. Did I make everyone wait outside of an art exhibit for an excruciating amount of time while I scanned each and every painting? Who's to say, really? I think that it's a bit unclear. But you know what became clear to me while I was editing this video? The fact that I didn't have nearly enough footage of what mattered most. I had spent so much time on our trip trying to commit each place to memory. I had prioritized capturing the beauty and the unfamiliarity of each new city that I forgot to capture more moments like these. It was a tough pill to swallow, to realize that I barely had any footage of the people and the moments that made each city actually mean something. I didn't have footage of my long, heartfelt conversations with my aunt on the bullet train. I didn't have footage of my mom's face lighting up when she saw something new and exciting for the first time. I didn't have footage of my dad's curious stare as he surveys something he hasn't come across before. I didn't have footage of my mom and my dad teasing each other over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I didn't have footage of us doubled over laughing at the silliest things. I didn't have footage of my parents fussing over me and making sure that I was okay. Now, years later, looking back on it, I know what matters most. It's not the perfectly framed or edited photos. It's not the shoddy, out-of-focus B-roll. It's this. It's the people you choose to share your life with. I wish I could go back in time and, instead of focusing my camera on a golden temple or a bamboo forest, focus it on my parents as they experienced it. Because at the end of the day, it's the people that you're with that make the places come to life. As the seasons since have come and gone and my memory of that summer wanes, what I felt traveling from city to city with my parents, that hasn't faded one bit. The excitement, the laughter, the frustrations, the love, that's something that I can hold on to for the rest of my life. No camera needed.